Thanks, Denise. I wouldn't be a business owner if I didn't try to sell you something straight away. This is my wife's company. She makes the shirts. It's called ordinary.style. You can find it on Instagram. So you can ask her. I graduated from UCT medical school, and sometimes I was even at the medical school. And one of the lectures that changed my life was actually just across the way there. You know where the sandwich lady used to be, or the cafeteria is? There was a lecture theatre just on the side there, and about 10 of us pitched up. That really kind of changed my life. So I'm going to try and emulate what happened to me there. So I'm going to get a better idea of who's here. Are any of you undergrads? Postgrads? Cool. Any of you overgraduating and want to do something else? Cool. Sounds good. So chatting to a couple of you earlier in the cafeteria, realized that one of the things that you guys really wanted to know was how do you start something? You've probably got an idea in your head, maybe a few ideas, or like you said, the divergent thinking, like different ideas in your head. How do you actually get something going? So I thought what I would do is I would describe how I started something, and hopefully some of those resonate with you, and then hopefully I can inspire you to listen to what I heard actually 18 years ago, almost a lifetime ago at UCT. So when I was at school, I really wanted to be a doctor. I didn't really have a very good reason why, but I thought that was going to be the coolest career. There'd never been a doctor in my family before. I thought it was going to be very, very special. So we did all those aptitude tests. I don't know if you guys did all those aptitude tests at school, and they said you should become a sign writer, a marketeer. The last thing you should do is be a doctor. But I was so determined to be a doctor. So when I came back to South Africa, because I finished school in England, I didn't get into university because I didn't have a metric exemption. And then once I got into a BSc, and I couldn't get into medical school. But actually that BSc time was probably the most valuable time, I think, academically. Because the nice thing about BSc, I was doing biological diversity and physics, so kind of an odd combo. But on the biology side, you get to think about systems, because everything is related. And I think the coronavirus is a brilliant example of like literally how humans are all connected in one way or another. And if you want to play a good app or a good game, it's called Plague, and you can work out how to kill the country with a disease, and the coronavirus is a pretty good example again. But the other thing on the physics side was working out that like no one really knows a lot of this stuff. They're still figuring things out. And like the fact that there are icebergs of diamonds in Jupiter and Neptune, I mean things like that kind of just like mind-blowing. And like how did the Big Bang really happen? Did it happen, or who knows? But I mean like there's so much we just don't know. And I think what I'm trying to do is break down your, like you said earlier about like actually how do you do something different? How do you think in a different way? And I think the BSc training is a really good example of how to do that. So eventually I got into medical school, but the only reason I got in was because my surname is Mapham, and one of my friends put an I at the end, so then I was Maphami, and at that stage they didn't do face-to-face lectures, face-to-face interviews, so that they said that was the only reason that I got into medical school. So there's still a group of friends that call me Maphami. But basically while I was doing a BSc, I used to walk down from res. I had one pair of smart clothes. I had a smart shirt and a smart trousers, and every week I would put them on and I would catch a lift with one of the medical students down to mid-campus and meet a doctor. One of the HODs hopefully, or one of the secretaries, anyone, and then I'd walk back up, get all sweaty, change into my normal clothes and go to university. Because I figured out that even if I got good marks, it wasn't quite enough. I really needed to know exactly what happened at medical school, and if I didn't get in, I wanted a lot of people to know about it, and maybe I'd get another chance. So sometimes it's not what you do academically, but it's what you do in terms of connecting to other people. Then I got into medical school, and just like the aptitude test said, I absolutely hated it. Like second year, the only reason we're doing, it's called pathology and physiology, and the only reason I could think of for passing is if I didn't pass, I'd have to do it again. That was my only motivating kind of factor. And then I got up to fourth year and I was getting more and more depressed. So depressed they put me on medication, but even antidepressants don't make medical school any better. So that didn't really help. And then I had to come to the realization, I did a course called the Forum, which was basically like a discover yourself kind of thing. And I realized that med school is not going to give me any creativity or how to do politics or any technical skills. So I decided that, look, if you get 60, no one even knows who you are at medical school. You just kind of like float through to the end. So I started coaching hockey, I joined the SASU, South African Sports Union, to learn more about kind of politics and stuff. And then one of my big breakthroughs, because there's nothing creative about medical school, or at least there wasn't when I was there. So I had a dream of putting on plays, because at school I was quite big into drama. So one of my friends had written a play called Nicotine Nights, and I said, cool, I'm going to try and produce this for you. So I cashed in my student loan, which that's what would happen next. So suddenly I had to invest all the money I had into producing this play, and I could afford to put it on 3 times. And we did this at a time when the smoking industry were now banned from advertising on TV, radio, but they weren't banned from advertising on plays. So we put the play on, and we were desperately trying to get like a smoking company to try and come in. It wasn't a play promoting smoking. It was like some person trying to give up, and some people battling with smoking, and skiing adverts and that kind of thing. I don't know if you always saw old like smoking adverts, people skiing and surfing. I don't know why. But anyway. So anyway, on the 3rd night, so the last night, someone from Gulwars came, and we got full sponsorship. So I actually managed to take our whole team to the Grahamstown Festival, completely paid before we even got there. And we made enough money to pay back my student loan, which was quite lucky. And then the play went on to the Edinburgh Festival and did other things after that. This kind of started with momentum. So again, just as long as you get 60 at med school, no one knows who you are. And so we put another play called Hungry, about eating disorders, and also a chef in it. We managed to get that sponsored by Lindt and Woolworths. Everyone who came got free chocolate. I'm not sure if that's good for you, but that's what they got. So basically the realization was that med school was not going to give me what I wanted, and what was going to be satisfying for me was going to be outside of that environment. So then we got totally enthusiastic. Now we can do anything, like, we can really break the rules. So we actually went to the head of Curtis Care Hospital, and we said, look, we don't like the way patients are being treated here. I'm from the Eastern Cape, and one lecturer said to me, look, nothing good comes out of the Eastern Cape, looking straight at me. And so I wasn't sure if he was talking about me or hadn't met Nelson Mandela or, But anyway. Anyway, I think he was talking to me. But basically, we got permission to take over a ward called the Ababa Tiny Health Initiative and run it our way. So we could bring in traditional healers, aromatherapy, talk to people nicely, they didn't have to wear hospital uniforms, patients could wear their own clothes. And this is on our final year. And then we started doing this and realized this is a job. We're going to go way below 60% if we actually do this. So we actually stopped. So if you are writing exams, I suggest you do just focus on the exams and put off what you want to do until later. So we cancelled that, but we vowed to do it in our community service. So for doing our internship, which is kind of like our training as doctors, we both went and specialized as much as we could. I was in gynae and pediatrics, and one of my friends did surgery and orthopedics, so we kind of had a bit of a combination of skills. And then we went off to a hospital where there'd never been a community service doctor before, called Magdalene. It's in the Eastern Cape. I go back there every Christmas, but it's kind of my favorite part of the world. And it's an hour-and-a-half's drive to fill up with petrol, so it's kind of far from stuff. But there are 250,000 people who live in that area, so it's one hospital serving a massive population. When we arrived there wasn't even actually paper in the hospital, so the first referral letter was actually written on toilet paper. It was subsequently refused by the referring hospital. But we started from nothing, and we slowly built it up. We advertised the Eastern Cape. It was such a nice place to live. People didn't know about it. We made it part of the teaching program for UCT and Stellenbosch, and there's so many doctors there now, you can actually specialize in family medicine there. So if you want to do something cool, really recommend you go back to the Eastern Cape. I'm totally biased. So that was our passion, was to basically get doctors into the rural areas. So sometimes you have to wait for the right time and also the right place. Because if I went to Curtis Care and I said, look, I want to paint all the wards and I want to recruit all these doctors, you're just going to get, no, this is my ward. You're going to find all these barriers. And I think sometimes if you look at the art world, you find better examples. So my favorite sculptor is one called Brancusi. He was offered a tutelage by Rodin, who did The Thinker and all those other cool stuff. And no one refuses a tutelage from Rodin. But he turned it down, and they said, why did you turn this down? I mean, no one's ever done that. And he said that nothing grows in the shade of a big tree. So if you try and do something at Curtis Care and change the whole system, you're going to fight a bit. But if you go to a rural area where you can make a big difference, suddenly nothing will be in your way, and people appreciate the efforts that you put in. So choose your right time and choose your right place. Then to fast forward a little bit, I went back into the drama world, made TV shows related to healthcare. There's a company called Soul City, Some of you might remember it, but back in the olden days when there were only 4 TV channels, we had the primetime show on SABC1, which basically meant that 70% of the country had to watch us. But it was a drama series around health issues. I really loved that job. But then saw the cell phones becoming a form of mass media, and I tried to convince Seoul City to go mobile, but I wasn't able to behavior change organization. So I went off to the States and I worked for a startup there, and it was really nice going into the startup world and seeing how the Americans kind of do it. There are some things we can learn from them. And also, when I came back to South Africa, because I didn't want to make Americans skinnier and smoke less. That was really far from my dream. So came back and I worked in Hillbrow, which we called rural Joburg. And there we turned disused buildings into health facilities. And we had about 80,000 patients on antiretrovirals. But the HIV world is very political. There's so much money, and people actually circulate around the money rather than doing the best thing for the patients, in my humble opinion, all the time. So I started to hate the job. And for 2 years, I stuck it out in this job that I really, really hated. So please don't do that. If you hate it, just have the guts to change. Don't wait 2 years. What it took me to change was having a rock climbing accident where I swung upside down, I was heading towards a ledge, and I thought that was what I really wanted to do. So also don't wait for that life-changing moment. Please change before you die in a rock climbing accident. I really recommend doing it earlier than that. So then one of the things I'd really been passionate about was eye care. And while I was in the Eastern Cape, a patient had come to me with an eye condition. I didn't know what it was, and I felt so helpless. And so I wrote him a letter and said, please go to Mthatha. It's a 3-hour journey, and I hope you can make it. And then what I did after Hillbrow, after the accident, I went to Swaziland, and I worked in the only eye clinic in the country. And it was started literally from a cupboard by one man, and it now serves the whole nation. So if you do also want to change and do something new, find someone else who's done it before and see if you can work with them a little bit. So there are some times when you want to work under a big tree, but make sure it's a growing tree, not something that's just all stopped. So he taught me a lot about how to start things from scratch. That clinic is paperless, it's double-sided theatre, it's more efficient than Tigerberg and Curtis Gill in terms of doing cataract surgery. It's remarkable, with one man kind of starting it and then building up a service. So when I was there, I saw that the health workers in the rural areas, they're called rural health motivators, had better phones than me because they were like status symbols. These were like pretty cool things, and I had some cheapie because I was volunteering. And so then we realized, why are we traveling 4 hours to these patients? Why can't we just use the phones? So we started the first called Vula Mobile, as in Vula Metro, open your eyes. And we thought we'd connect the rural health workers with specialists. And so I started the idea in 2010, and for 2.5 years, all I did was talk about it. I told everyone I was doing this. Everyone's like, yeah, talk is cheap. And I had this PowerPoint presentation, I keep on presenting it. And again, like, yeah, it's fascinating, well done. And eventually I made a demo myself. And nowadays, if you want to make an app or use technology, lots of ways of kind of doing it yourself. Just make it the simplest possible thing that you can yourself. Once we had a demo, we then won the SAB Innovation Award, which was R1 million, and then we could actually build the apps. So don't wait 2.5 years of just talking. Try and make the thing that you want to sell or do, and go from there. That will probably help a little bit. And then after that, what I did was fill in forms. I didn't know how to run a business. I'd worked in big NGOs before, but I hadn't really done a startup. And so I just filled in forms. I went online, I Googled every single innovation competition. And I entered every single one, like form after form after form. And as long as we won one per year, it kept us going for 3 years. And then my favorite one was in Morocco. We won the African Entrepreneurship Award. And this process took about a year. And then after we won it, it was a prize in dollars. Zuma sacked the finance minister. And so the rand went tumbling, and our prize money doubled. So we're massive Zuma fans for a period of time. Let's qualify that. But yeah, so sometimes you get lucky. And but I think if you keep on filling forms and keep on just trying, something will change, and you'll get a breakthrough. But filling in forms isn't a business model. So eventually in 2017 we realized we had to do something different. We now had a few hundred users. Basically the system connects health workers in the rural areas with specialists. And it started with ophthalmology, and now it's in 39 specialties. And nowadays, the patient is helped every 2.5 minutes. It's been used in 6 provinces, supported by National Department of Health, and it's now kind of a business. But the transition from like, I've got a good idea and I fill in forms, to having a business is quite a journey. And a couple of things that I would just recommend that if you do this, talk to people, tell everyone what you're doing. Never sign an NDA. NDA is a complete waste of time. Imagine if you've got, maybe it's controversial, but like, imagine you've got 10 minutes with Elon Musk, and you spend 10 minutes talking about your NDA, and that's all the time you've had with him. What a complete waste. He's never going to do what you want to do. You're passionate about your thing. Like, rather just get on and do it, show him the demo. Maybe he'll fund the demo, you know, like, because initially I was so secretive. I was like, it's so amazing. Like, if you don't sign this piece of paper, it'll explode, you know. And so basically, just took the approach of tell everyone, and then things start happening. People start helping you. So one example was I didn't know how to build an app. I had the demo that I'd made. So I phoned around, and everyone just laughed at me because I had 50,000 Rand at the time. And like, if you phone a developer now and say, oh, 50,000 Rand, can you build me an app and a server and these other things, they'll just laugh. Well, they laughed at me. And they like even joke, they say, yeah, what color button do you want? I'll build you 2 buttons, you can choose 2 colors. But then I phoned this one academic at the Samsung Institute for Development at UCT, I'm not sure if it's still there. And he said, no, don't talk to everyone, talk to these 2 people. And one of them was a person who was on holiday in Agulhas. So I drove over there to Agulhas and said, look, please, can I meet with you? And she said, okay. And she ran a user experience company. So user experience is a profession that makes complicated things simple. And so her company donated 200,000 Rand worth of design time to help him build our app. She then worked for me for 4 years because she liked what she was doing more than she liked working in the corporate world. So sometimes you get lucky, and the more you talk, I think the more things will come out of the woodwork than if you try and stay secret. That's my opinion. Other thing is finding people who can help you. So it's pretty lonely being on your own, and the one person that can help you is your partner. So I really recommend getting a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or some sort of partner, because she's really pulled me through some pretty dark times. She had a very nice car, and at one stage we needed rent, so we had to sell her car. So yeah, that's how understanding she was. She's got a car again. She's still married to me. And the other thing was exercise. So basically, you should not try and burn out. I think initially I thought, oh, you've got to start up. You have to work like the whole time. And it's actually the worst thing that happened to me, because I ended up getting spinal surgery because I was sitting and twisting the whole time. I was quite chubby. And basically pepper grinding my spine every evening. And bits of the disc floated off, went down the nerve canals, and I couldn't walk for about 6 months. So don't do that. And they don't even think it's like a work-life balance. It's just your life. And rather manage your energy than your time. So if you need energy in the afternoon, go for it. Go and get some exercise and then work later. Don't like work the whole time and then crash in the evening and you'd be too tired to go out and do something. So I'm quite acutely aware of my exercising. My wife still reminds me to exercise. So I took up stand-up paddling because if you're out at sea, the phone can't ring. Well, unless you take it with you, but I don't do that. I learned how to surf for the first time, so you kind of stay balanced. And I think the one thing about what I've learned recently is that we started to get some revenue in, but I was so anxious about like the revenue, like how would I pay salaries next month, that I was always looking short term. And then we eventually got an investor from the DRK Foundation, which you guys can look up and I can give you contacts for. They fund entrepreneurs who want to make a difference, and they also give you like a full-time mentor. So my mentor he was one of the first doctors to treat patients with HIV. So he was at Harvard when they first basically kind of brought out ARVs and started treating patients. So he's kind of heavily involved in the tech side. He also happened to be the American captain for the Frisbee team. So he also knew that exercise was good for you. So I thought that was pretty cool. But basically he said to me, you can't keep looking short term, you've got to start looking up. And so he's actually helping me look longer term. And it's a bit like surfing in a way, because if you watch a surfing video, you'll see the surfers always looking up, they're turning with their bodies, looking to where they want to go. If you're a surfer and you look at your feet, you're going to fall in. So sometimes I think keep your dream in mind and keep doing things that will get you there. Try not to look so short term. otherwise you'll fall into the water. So I hope that helps some of you. Happy to chat and share other experiences. But just a reminder, you can buy my shirts, well, my shirts. Just take any questions you like.